Okay, I think we are live everywhere and ready to get rocking.
Awesome. Yep, see us live on TikTok.
And just people in the chat,
Facebook.
just let us know if there's any kind of audio issues. I think I have everything. We made some big adjustments to our tech, so it should be good, but let us know if you hear anything from echoing voices to missing voices. And we're just going to warm up for a minute and get started very soon.
Awesome. Yeah, really excited about the topic today, Travis, because I think what we're talking about, repurposing an existing system. I personally, I think that's going to blow people's mind away, right? You can have a different outcome with the same building blocks.
Yeah, good point.
Share it with the team.
So just bear with us. Anyone logging in, we're going to get started in on the 08 marker.
Perfect.
Hey, Carrie.
Yeah, anyone, you and us, jump in the chat, say hi to us. We're friendly people.
Just let us know if we have, think we're good with that. No more, shouldn't hear an echo when we speak, and you should be able to hear both of us. But let me know if either of those issues exist still. I think I fixed it all from last time. Almost. We're going to start in a minute here.
Yeah. Welcome, Carrie. Welcome, Arm. Yeah, we're going to start at the 08 marker. So welcome, and I'm really excited about the episode to share with you guys.
Okay, you hear an echo?
You hear an echo, Travis?
They hear an echo when you speak. I'm trying to think if I could. I think I know what that is. I'm trying to think if I have an easy cure. If not, we'll make do if we have to. Let me just think real quick.
Okay, yeah, appreciate the information, Carrie. Or welcome, James. Welcome. Who else did we have? Steph. Working out a slight bug with an echo, but we will get rocking and rolling soon. Welcome to the chat, Megan. Yeah, right, Carrie. I say such brilliant things, you got to hear it twice.
All right, we'll just get going. I'll have to fix it later. Can't think of how to fix it off the top of my head right now.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, and we're just people like you guys that, we got tech issues too, but we're going to keep championing through. Welcome, Donald. Welcome back. We will get started. So welcome to those. We are live right now on TikTok, YouTube, and Facebook right now. So welcome from wherever you are joining us from. We're Fink, Future is Now Coalition. And you can think of Fink as your civic utility company. And what does a regular utility company do? They connect people that have needs to a system that functions, right? And that is exactly what Fink is here to do for democracy. Connecting people to shared resources and running on shared standards. So we plug everyone into a fair, citizen-led system of representation. And how are we going to make participation in that system simple? Well, first, we're going to put every candidate on equal footing, right? We're going to lower the barriers for grassroots voices, and we're going to streamline the democratic process. So all of that is going to lead to a system that has less waste and more representation. Doesn't that sound great? So with this system, it will have built-in accountability with shared standards that keep leaders answerable to us, the people, while also reducing the sway of money in politics. So again, we're Think, plug in, be heard, and get results. Before we really dive into the meat and potatoes of what today's episode is going to be, I just want to give a friendly reminder to people that simple acts like tapping the heart, hitting like, jumping into the chat, right? Talking with us, those are really powerful ways to interact with us that we want to interact with you. And we've had a good trickle of followers, new followers on our TikTok. We're so close to 600. So just a friendly reminder that with such a people-forward, people-focused mission like ours, those little acts mean so much to us, right? Hitting follow, hitting like, commenting, chatting with us in the chat box is really important and really powerful for the kind of conversations we want to have. So going into today's episode, we are going to be talking about, like we said, Think is a civic utility company, and we don't want any new laws, right? We want to use the rules and system of today, but use it differently. Use it so citizens, instead of the elites, right, and that concentration of power, use it so citizens get to decide in democracy. And a big phrase or image in your mind that I want you to keep as we talk about power: a wolf will never lock its own cage, right? So how do we reuse the already in place system to ensure that the wolves, right, have accountability, have communication, have an ability for citizen feedback and citizen input into how our democracy should work? So we're going to really go deep into that today, and I'm really excited about it. And with that, I will pass it to Think's founder, Travis.
Cool. Yeah. So like Liz is saying, so bottom line of like that a wolf isn't going to lock their own cage. The bottom line is that, clearly there's a lot of reforms that the American people want and are not getting, and there's a lot of reform movements. We're allied with a lot of different movements these days that want everything from money out of politics, ranked choice voting, better ballot access, and the key difference that we're doing is that these groups are their entire goal and starting point is getting legislative reform. Public pressure on congressmen and different politicians to pass certain legislation that is better for the American people, but it's not working. This is a strategy that used to work to a large extent in the past, and then slowly got weaker and weaker until like the last decade. Positive legislation is very rare these days, and to bring it in a nutshell, the key thing that differentiates us from other organizations is that we're not counting on legislative change anytime soon. We're looking to use the current system and the advantage of the digital age to empower citizens in a way that they weren't empowered before. And so really just reframing a little bit of the issue, plus giving new transparency tools and just a new set of information to make better choices for yourself, could ultimately change the entire system from the ground up. So that's everything from, showing conflicts of interest with politicians that help you make better decisions for yourself. You're not going to vote for somebody that, if you care about healthcare, you're not going to want to vote for somebody that takes millions from the private health insurance industry. So one side is transparency and showing really the skeletons in the closet of these politicians to help you make a better choice for yourself. And then the other side is also amplifying the grassroots voices, those that can't spend millions to shove ads up in your face 24/7. If we, start building a system with a level playing field, showcase all these candidates equally, it would massively give an advantage to these grassroots candidates, because they both haven't sold their soul, so they don't have as many skeletons in their closet. Plus being showcased in one more standardized system lessens the need for them to raise so much money just so you know that they even exist. So these are different pieces of how our strategy is unique, because again, we're not counting on legislative change. In fact, that's the last step. Like, and we're talking like a decade or two later. We want to beeline to the citizens, empower you to have the right information, more streamlined information, easier to digest, so that you can make better voting decisions for yourself. It also doesn't matter left, right, third party, wherever you stand. That's fine. We're not here to change that. We just want to give you better information so you can make the best choice for yourself. But doing this basically results in changes in who wins elections, and that's what changes the entire system from the ground up. So, so basically we're not looking for, not the best people are being elected right now, and then we're trying to get them to make legislative change for any change to happen, but that we can't count on that. So think we're, changing who gets elected basically, and then legislation can change. Once you have better candidates in office, then legislative change can happen. But we're right now, most reforms are just hitting a brick wall, like trying to push for certain changes that are just not going to happen as long as the status quo is still being elected. Go ahead, Liz.
Yeah, so part of that, you can't expect a wolf to lock its own cage, right? So part of what Fink is addressing, it's not like the RNC and DNC are surprised that people want them to divest from large donors. It's not a surprise that things like ranked choice voting or star voting are super popular. It's not a surprise at a lot of things that most of us, regardless of party, really want, right? That's not a shock to those in power that the people want them. But the reality is, as long as there is this concentration of power and us as individual voters don't have that power, they get all the say, right? They get to keep their big donors. They get to keep their very limited debates. They get to keep whatever system really works for them. We're saying, A, that's wrong. B, well, what do we do about it, right? So if a wolf can't be expected to lock its own cage, right? If a politician can't be trusted to divest from large investors, well, where's the reward system for those who do take small grassroots donors? Where is the ability for smaller voices to get on the debate stage, right? And that is the kind of thing that Fink is addressing, right? Where are these missed infrastructure and lacking opportunities for quality politicians, right? Republican, Democrat, independent, third party, whoever. We are saying their voice is squashed. They are outspent, and that all leads to this perpetual system of concentration of power where you and I will never be represented in that power system.
Yeah, totally. And sorry, I just got distracted. If someone could check on, is YouTube not showing our video? Is it just still showing the "we're almost live" screen? Someone could double check that while I keep talking, either Liz or Carrie. Anyway, I'll jump into the topic here. Just double check me that one way or the other. So to recap what we were saying just earlier. So we're okay, cool. So we're basically what we're building is new digital political infrastructure. And we're focusing that, like, a secondary thing that makes us so unique is that we want all citizens to be represented. We're not pushing a certain ideology. We're not pushing left over right. We want to empower all Americans, because we believe that if America just was a true democracy, what it was always meant to be, the system will start fixing itself out. And it's not one party ruining our country. It's up versus down, as we talk about it and think. So it's always about, is this candidate, is this party, is this media upserving or downserving? So like an upserving politician serves, they serve more power, they serve their party leaders, they serve the big donors or special interests, where a downserving candidate serves the American people, the voters, those that they're meant to serve, the ones that they were elected to serve. And that distinction is huge, and we really want to drill that in. It's also gaining traction these days. I hear a lot of people talking about up-down politics more and more lately. And so, like, the bottom line is, it's less important about left versus right. It's about, are these people, are their interests in it to serve the majority of us and the voters, or is it just serving 1% of us? And whether, it doesn't matter Democrat or Republican, most people, like, especially like in Congress, are upserving. They are not there for you, and that's why everything's imploding. And people on the left are saying, oh, Trump this, Trump that, but, like, both sides have been destroying the economy, both sides are destroying democracy, everything is crumbling. Because whether you're on the left and wanting, like, stronger government and more supports and this and that, or you want, like, free market, either way, once they're in office, they're not doing the policies you want. They're doing it, like, it might seem like that on the outside, but on the inside, the legislation is always going to appeal to it's always going to benefit the higher ups than you are. And that goes for either party. Like an oversimplified example is that if Democrats are going to raise taxes and they're going to say, oh, we're going to raise it on the rich. No, they're going to raise it on middle class, maybe a little upper middle class. They don't touch the ultra rich, because that's who's giving them money to make sure they don't get taxed extra. And then the vice versa is true. If Republicans are going to lower taxes, it's fundamentally more from the highest people at the top get less taxes. And it's not a black and white. There's a continuum of how that works, but generally, like, legislation that gets passed is generally going to help 1% the most, 5% of the population a little bit, 10% maybe. But as you go down to, like, the bottom 80% is usually, like, shit out of luck in most legislation that happens. So again, this is what we call up-down politics, part of our concept of digital politics. So that's the only framing that we, like, instill with people. But beyond that, we respect left, right, third party, independent. We want Americans to get what Americans want right now. They're not getting what they want. And we want it to be clear what the actual problem is. It's not just one party. It's this, upserving mentality on both sides. And with that said, everyone, like, most, like, 90% of people in Congress, left or right, are upserving, and that is the biggest problem. And you're not going to get the reforms that you want, because neither side's really going to they're going to, no matter what, they're not going to get the votes, no matter who the majority, whichever party is the majority, you're not going to get the votes to pass what should be passed, basically, at this stage. Go ahead, Liz.
Travis, I was thinking maybe we should contextualize that a little bit, right? So if people are just supposed to, right, in the old system, in the current system, just show up and vote, and therefore how many people win the vote and get to power. So it seems to be this streamlined, I did my part. But at Think, we're talking about, hey, you can do as much as you want, but your values being represented are being overshadowed by big money, big media, things like that. They're just more powerful, more wealthy, more influential, honestly, more scary to congressmen than you and I are, right? We get maybe a phone call to their intern. But if we could just contextualize, why, the current system is you show up, you vote, you maybe research a candidate half an hour before you go vote. What are people doing wrong per se? And it's not, I want people to, I say that kind of tongue in cheek, but we're saying the system is broken, right? So if we could just talk about some of the brokenness of the system, right? That primaries aren't what they're supposed to be. The debate stage isn't what it's supposed to be. Maybe a little bit of why just showing up and voting just isn't hitting the mark, and why we're building something unique, but not necessarily foreign to the current system.
Yeah, cool. Great points. I like that. The contextualized. Yeah. So to Liz's point, so for one of the big issues is really that by the time you're at the general election, you're already now at the lesser two evils, and there's very little participation in the primary, but that's really where the grassroots better candidates have their chance to succeed. And recent, I don't know the exact statistic, but like according to Andrew Yang, about only about 10% of each party ends up participating in the primaries. And so, if you're only waiting to the general, like we've already lost. So you're already picking you're either going to pick, 9 times out of 10, you're going to pick you have an establishment Democrat or you have an establishment Republican, and you choose which one is the lesser evil to move forth. So for example, like the Senate has Democrats in the Senate have like a mid 20% approval rating, sometimes hitting in the 30s. Republicans are in the 30s as well. Used to be like 50, 60 percentiles in the past. So Senate has this really low approval ratings, and yet literally 100% of incumbents that run to reelect in Senate get reelected. So think about that. They have this abysmal lowest approval ratings in modern history, and yet 100% chance of getting reelected if they run again. Like, that's insane. And that's because of the primary. The primary is the time we need to replace these people. A lot of states it's going to be that the Democrats always going to win in this state, the Republicans always going to win in that state, at least at this stage in the political world. But the key is, let's get a better Democrat. Let's get a better Republican. Let's get down-serving Democrats, down-serving Republicans. And I guarantee you, if you had if Congress was full of down-serving candidates, even if it was split 50-50, Democrat and Republican, they would figure shit out. They would get things fixed. They would pass legislation that benefits all of us. But because they don't have the substance that they need to have, all they do is focus on the other party. Oh, look what they're doing. They're horrible. They're horrible. Attack ads are way more prevalent than saying, neither party says what they're for most of the time. It's always what the other party is doing wrong. But if you actually have good candidates, down-serving candidates, they have a lot to say. They know what the voters want, and they're not bribed to not give it to you. They want to fight for you. And so again, it wouldn't matter even if Congress was split to two parties, they would get shit done. They would have enough legislation to pass. It's just that both sides are not truly there for the American people. They play the game of politics. They have to, stick to party lines against their own voters, and there's like a lot of BS that's stuck in this system right now. And so basically, we're building like a digital overlay on top of the current system. So imagine like in this current in the current physical world, like, you're going to see billboards, you're going to see commercials for the grossest candidates, and they're going to attack each other and whatever. But then imagine that you go online, and now there's this new layer of information at your disposal that, maybe all you're seeing are the attack ads for these two candidates, but now that you look at the digital layer, you see, there's a really great grassroots candidate, and they're gaining a lot of traction. People really love what they're saying. They're getting a lot of likes and shares, and their social media is blowing up. They're going viral. So that can change the system. You know, most people are online. Most Americans are online. I mean, you know, Facebook has 3 billion monthly users on Facebook alone. So that's like almost half the planet uses it at least monthly. You know, we all use social media now. So what we're calling for is a more organized way for politicians to organize on social media. But you know, so all said and done, like the idea is having a new layer of which people can make their decisions based off, instead of just saying, oh well, I saw this guy's ads more than the other guy, and you know, I'm more right leaning, so I'm going to vote for this person. Now we're going to add this new layer where it's more understandable. What are their policies? What kind of conflicts of interest do they have? How consistent are they when they make a promise? Do they actually fight for it once in office? You know, who's that quieter guy that can't buy a loud voice but has much better things to say than the other guys. And then that starts changing the game. So that's why we say we can't change the rules right now, like the legislation, but we could change the game that we're playing without having to change the actual rules. Go ahead, Liz. Hold on, I see. They should hear you now.
Okay. Mic check 1 2 1 2. Great. Okay. You know, we're human, everybody. We got some bugs to work out. But Linda asked or said that Republicans won't negotiate, and this is something that Fink often comes across of, oh, that entire swath of a party, you know, be it Democrats or Republicans, are the problem. And we're not saying no, they're not. We're saying the problem is the systemic nature, this bipartisan systemic nature of a concentration of power. You know, you're absolutely fine to say that Republicans won't negotiate, but you also have to be fair and say Democrats aren't innocent in this game either. The inability for people to be represented is not one party's fault. And we're not saying don't vote Republican, don't vote Democrat. We're not saying how you should vote. We are saying Republicans have had their chance in power. Democrats have had their chance in power. But really, you know, democracy goes downhill both ways. I want to pass it to Travis because I don't want to take up all the time. But do Republicans suck? Sure. But we also have to expand and be real about Democrats suck too. Democrats are not the savior of democracy that maybe they purport to be. I'll pass it to Travis.
Yeah, thank you. Sometimes I miss the comments, so that's good to shout it out. Yeah, so to jump on top of that more, yeah, I mean, if you look at all the numbers right now, Democrats are doing way worse than Republicans. Approval ratings, like and let's be clear. So the Democratic voters actually, they're not against the policies Democrats are supposed to stand for. The problem is they don't actually fight for those things, you know. So and you know, we got to understand that we're in this mess because both parties are not appealing to the American people. And, you know, some people say that, oh, it's, you know, oh, Democrats have to have a wide range of people to speak to. Okay, well, but look at the statistics. The people on the left, they're not as widely spread as you would think. If you look poll after poll, there's a pretty clear, like, yeah, there's like a further left, centrist left divide, but like, there's a lot of laws and things that virtually all people on the left want, and they're still not getting it. So, you know, like both sides are exactly that. No, like in terms of non-compromise, at least like now this is others' opinion. Most people say Democrats can't get shit done. Why do Republicans able to get shit done? When the roles reverse, Democrats don't get nearly as much legislation done as Republicans. So why is that? Biden had a majority in both chambers, and the only big legislation was the big Build Back Better infrastructure. Who no one really sees the progress in that. So it's not one side, and each side has their own sets of what's bad about it, and it differentiates, but you got to look at what brought us here. We talk about all the time, those that talk about Trump being fascist. Well, almost 100% of the time that any fascism has ever risen, it's at a state of most desperation, where people feel poor, the economy's not doing well, people feel unheard, and that's where they live right now. That's exactly what's going on. So, and that's not one side causing that issue. It's the collective. Both sides have had majorities. Every 4 or 8 years it swaps to the other party, and then they get a whole majority, and then one side doesn't get much at all done, the other side gets a lot done, but it's a lot of bad sometimes. So it's still lesser of two evils. So again, right now, if you look at the stats, the approval ratings are a lot worse. Both are low, but Democrats are in the 20%. Republicans are in the 30%. Ironically, they're still saying that Democrats will win enough of a majority to they believe that they'll gain a slim majority in the midterms. But it's very understood. It's not because people like them. It's just the anti-Trump energy is enough to maybe move the needle up a little bit. But people, beyond any time in modern history, people are extremely unhappy with both parties, and it's time that there's only a small population that keeps defending the Democrats, and I get it, because you think that if we're talking bad about Democrats that we're supporting the Republicans, and that's not true. We are showing that both sides are corrupted. Both sides have very clear conflicts of interest. Both sides take a lot of money from billionaires. We can't pretend that only Republicans have billionaires. Both sides have their billionaires, and both sides answer to the wealthiest in their population. And we're not going to get anywhere until more people wake up to this. And a lot of people are. There's a slim a slim majority that understand this, but need to get out there a little bit more. God, you want to say something, Liz?
Yeah, this is also a great, statement to really divorce voters from the party, because Republican voters are not the Republican Party, just like Democrat voters are not the Democratic Party. We're saying once elected and once probably reelected and we're saying the almost corruption of allowing big money to come into your coffers, kind of staying in power becomes the focus rather than representation. Again, that's not a party specific issue. That is a concentration of power. That is a kind of a bastardization of democracy in a lot of ways. If you're voting for someone, right, be it a Republican or a Democrat or a third party, what have you, you want them to pass legislation, have conversations, come back to your hometown and talk to you, right? All of these things are not being fulfilled for the voters. And so we're not here to say, oh yeah, half of the country is X, Y, and Z. We're saying probably 98% of the country is not being represented because of this 1, 2, maybe 5% of big money, big media, big influence that is allowed and tolerated in our current government. So are the Republicans that are currently in power at fault? Sure. But if it was Democrats, they'd be at fault too, right? So we're not here to just shit on Republicans just because they happen to be in power right now. Yeah, it's not great for a lot of reasons, but it's not, we're not going anywhere. The wheels are not gaining traction when we only point at this monolith of a party. So we're trying to have better conversations. Are the Republicans in power, not doing what the majority of the people want them to do? Sure. But how many times have Democrats done that too? So we're saying, gosh, let's have better conversation and let's have better infrastructure and language around what the problem is. And then how do we solve these lacking bridges of representation? Back to you, Travis.
Yeah, totally. And like, yeah, so I mean, the bottom line is like the system in itself favors the keeping people in power, status quo. Once you're in office, it's like so much easier to keep winning your election. I mean, like, look at the presidency. If you're already the president, they don't even acknowledge that there's a primary going on. And so the idea is that the system itself is stacked against grassroots. It's stacked against anyone that's not going to sell their soul to the highest bidder. And that goes for both parties. And again, like, if Democrats actually represented people, they would be deeply popular right now. Like, you see there's like a huge population of people that don't like Trump, and yet they don't like Democrats. They're just anti-Trump. And like, so we've been 12 years of Democrats vote for Democrats because we're not Trump. Vote for us because he's worse than we are. And like, they sometimes get a slim majority with that message, but like, it only takes you so far. And so I mean, again, statistic after statistic shows that people do not feel represented. People want money out of politics. People see the conflicts of interest of both parties. I mean, look at any grassroots candidates that run. Anything from when Bernie Sanders ran, Marianne Williamson. I mean, virtually anyone that's not an establishment pick. Listen to their YouTubes, listen to their videos of their own account of like, they're not allowed in debate stage. They're not even allowed. The mainstream media does not give them any attention when they, if an establishment candidate says that they're going to run for president, you'll have a slew of cameras and reporters at their door. But a very popular but grassroots person is going to talk about the presidency. You're not going to get nearly as much energy in there from the establishment. So, that's the thing. That's what stacks the good candidates against that any good candidate has a much bigger hill to climb to have any chance in winning a primary on either parties in either party. And so what we're calling for and what we're building is a digital overlay of a leveled playing field where you can see all the candidates running. You can see those conflicts of interest. You can see what is that you'll find, the grassroots candidates, surprise, surprise, they actually promise to do things that directly they'll say, this is what I want for healthcare. This is what I want for the minimum wage. This is how I want to handle this. This is how I want to handle that. The establishment, they're more like, we want better healthcare and better economy and better this. And it's like, well, what does that mean? And when you ask them, what does that mean? Oh, well, Republicans, blah, 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 blah. Like, okay, well, what are you for? Not what are they against? What are you for? And the grassroots candidates, they're the ones that are more honest. They don't have to, they're not bribed by those with the money and the power. So they can actually fight for what you want. And like, and there's millions of wonderful candidates like that, and they just get drowned out because they don't sell their soul. So the mainstream media doesn't talk to them. It is harder, not impossible, but it is harder for them to raise their money. And the party leaders are against them. The party leaders stack it against them, even in the primary, when they're not supposed to stack it against them. And that is what we need to look at. If you're just looking at the other party and blaming them for everything, then, look at, whatever side you're on, look at the times when your party had a clear majority for multiple years, and what did you get out of that time? And, that hopefully can wake you up to some extent. But, this is what most people are feeling. I know there's a lot of people that get because again, the guttural reaction is that by us talking bad about Democrats, you think it's going to support Trump. But this is that he's a symptom of the problem. We're trying to fix the actual core problem. You know, Democrats are still just saying, vote for us, we're not Trump, and we don't stand for anything else other than not Trump. And like, we need more than that. You know, everything's crashing down, and you know, that fascist side, or however you want to call it, is going to keep gaining power as long as no one's really addressing the core pain of the American people. That's what it boils down to. People are in pain. Middle class is shrinking. People are suffering. We have a lower quality of life for what we deserve, and for being the richest country in the history of the world. There shouldn't be this such pain going on, suffering, people having 2-3 jobs just to get by, healthcare denying them on basic things. You know, everyone knows someone that has a problem. Like I just recently heard, like, my dad's friend had some back problem, and like the day before the surgery, the healthcare denied their coverage. Like, they have a clear chronic back problem that needs surgery, and they denied the request. But then they made some calls, and they just threatened to sue them, and then within hours they were back approved. But you know, it just shows how messed up the system is right now. People are suffering, and it's like, it'd be one thing if everyone on the planet was or everyone in the country was suffering, but the fact that the rich are richer than they've ever been before by far, like, you know, it's not like, you know, it should be, you know, if everyone is suffering and there's nothing that can be done, that's one thing, but it's just a concentration of power and influence and money. So that's what we're here to overcome. So kind of to summarize it, like, so right now we're looking to repurpose the system, build an equal stage that, you know, no matter how much money you raise, the grassroots candidate gets a voice, the same as the establishment candidate, and, you know, start softening the need to raise millions of dollars even to just stand the slightest chance to win an election. You know, build these discovery slots of like how to find these candidates that you wouldn't have found otherwise. You know, again, the grassroots candidates, they don't get they don't get media attention, they don't have as much money to pay for billboards, so you might not see them in the news as much. And it's not because they're not as good, it's because the establishment doesn't want them to win, so they're not going to give them their voice. So we will compensate by that, by building a system that gives them a voice, guarantees them at least a chance to succeed. Are they going to win? Well, that's up to the people. If they don't resonate with the American people, they're not going to win. But we want to give every candidate a chance to prove why they're the best leader, and then the voters decide from there if they should rise. So that's the system that we're building. And again, it's kind of like a digital overlay over the current system. Lift the underdog candidates, grassroots groups, help independent journalists as well, because they have an uphill battle to climb. Everyone that's not part of the status quo deserves a chance to prove their own value, and we want to build a leveled playing field that helps lift these voices and gives them a chance to succeed with the people. Got it, Liz.
Absolutely. And I think we talk a lot about providing the infrastructure and the ability for merit to actually beat money, or at least have an opportunity to beat money. And right now, that doesn't happen, right? That doesn't happen on the debate stage, that doesn't happen on interviews, and that doesn't happen when it comes time to actually vote for somebody, right? Those are pre-selected for you, right? And probably because a primary didn't happen or you weren't told about it. But also you didn't have the opportunity to learn about a different candidate, right? So if you had the opportunity to hear them on the debate stage and say their piece, if you had the opportunity to go to a town hall meeting for them, if you had the opportunity to vote for them in a primary, we're not saying you have to only vote for really poor candidates, right? We want you to make the choice that is best for you, because right now that choice is being made for you by the establishment, right? It is a false choice often when you go to vote. It is an establishment Democrat often versus a establishment Republican. And it might seem like two opposing viewpoints, and maybe ideologically it is, but who they represent, who they serve, who they are worried about pissing off is usually not us voters. It's their donors, and it's those people backing their ability to stay in power. So we're not here to tell you how to vote or who you should exactly vote for. We are saying you deserve better options. You deserve better infrastructure to make those better options. And gosh, you need to start voting for you, what you want and what you care about, and not just what the establishment puts in front of you. So with that, I think we could start wrapping it up. Thank you for everyone who popped in. Again, we're on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok. We will be live again tomorrow at
2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. Yeah.
Cool.
So
so 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 Pacific. Feel free to tune in. We love hearing from you guys. Yeah. Any final words, Travis?
Yeah. Just I know it's big and complex what we're doing, but I mean that's how else are you going to change? Like the world needs fundamental change. It's going to be big and complex, but we're making a lot of great new strides, building a lot of good allies. So keep up to date with what we're doing. We're gonna have some guests coming in the next couple weeks, and we're gonna be a guest on other podcasts very soon. It's a lot of good traction, and just the more you learn about what we're doing, it truly is something unique, and it should be an eye opener if you learn how we're addressing the problem, how we're defining the problems that exist in this country. Because again, we're looking to repurpose a system without making a crazy change to the actual legislation. But then also the big uniqueness is that we appeal to all Americans, not just one party. We want true representation. We want your voice to be heard, regardless of where you stand politically, and that's a highly unique thing. And heals and stops a big divide that currently exists in this country. And the more that people can see the up versus down being the real problem, that also heals these divides in a lot of ways. So learn more about us. Learn. We have a lot of videos explaining this stuff in different language, different framing. And check us out. Our website is futureis.org, and our handle is futureis.org across a lot of different socials. But yeah, we'll see you guys tomorrow. And take care.